Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back once again to another Fallout 4 settlement build. Today we're going to be checking out the clinic, and I guess you could also call it the doctor's office if you wanted to. Either one works. We're not going to be using any new mods this time around, but I have tried to make use of a lot of pieces that we haven't seen in some of the previous builds. So hopefully by doing that, this clinic will stand out a bit more from the other builds, and also kind of have its own unique style. And before we begin, I do want to thank you guys for all the support you've shown so far. You guys really seem to be enjoying it, and obviously so am I. And I've also gotten quite a few awesome suggestions as well. Recently, some people have recommended a sheriff's office, a butcher, some kind of an arena, and not to mention the new settlement DLC should be coming out soon. And it sounds like that DLC is going to have a lot to do with fighting arenas and whatnot, so it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out in our settlement here. But anyways guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and check this thing out. Alright guys, so now we'll go ahead and take a closer look at the outside of the build, and I must admit, the clinic is definitely looking quite a bit different from at least the previous two builds we've done. I'd say it's looking a lot more like the gun store, at least the shape and style of it, which isn't a bad thing. I can honestly say it's nice to have a good bit of variety in our town, so I'm enjoying how it turned out, and hopefully you guys are too. But you can see also in the background I've begun to add some trees and whatnot, which is really kind of adding a cool atmosphere on its own. Almost a bit like Point Lookout, I feel, at least at nighttime. Not too sure if it's got that same feeling during the day, but maybe the more trees we add, the better and better it will look. Speaking of trees, over by this one to the left, there's a little grave site, which is kind of cool. Almost leads you to imagine that maybe one of the patients didn't survive, and no one cared enough about him to bury him anywhere else, so this is where he got stuck. And I would like to add some shrubs around here just to make it look like they haven't just dug straight into the, well, you know, the cement, since I don't think that would be possible. And over to the right, I've tried to add a bunch of warehouse items that maybe couldn't end up fitting inside the building, so they just got tossed out here, which I think adds a messy but also kind of a realistic look to the build. And then up here on the porch, you can see there's some extra seating, and this is mainly just an area for visitors to come and relax while they wait for their friend to get better. And then obviously up on the second floor, you can see there's a drug sign off to the right, since this clinic does sell those as well. And there's also a big giant illuminated medical symbol smack there in the middle, which, to be honest, I didn't like too much at first, but then I tried adding some other details like blacking out a couple lights to make it look like they were out, and I think that helped out just a bit. If you're wondering though, my main issue with it was that it looked a bit out of place in this settlement, although I think that could easily change once we add a couple more on some of our new buildings. But anyways guys, that'll just about do it for the exterior, so now we'll go ahead and see what's inside. Oh, and lucky for us, it looks like we might be the only ones here, so there might be a chance we could catch a glimpse and see just what exactly this doctor's been up to. I can't imagine it's anything good. But anyways guys, this here is the waiting room, and I'm sure most, if not all of you, have probably been to some kind of a doctor's office that has a somewhat similar layout to this in their waiting room as well. You can see we have some seats for patients to wait for their appointment to come, and there's also this big front desk where you could come and make appointments or just collect some of your medicine. But overall, I have tried to make this room, along with many others in this build, quite a bit more colorful than the outside world, just because I know usually the doctor's office can be sort of a hated thing. So in an effort to try and counter that negative feeling, I've tried to add some happiness to this build, although it does have kind of a dark twist, as you'll see later on. And in order to give the patients or the doctor some extra privacy, I have attempted to kind of divide all the areas. You'll see there's quite a few doorways and a lot of hallways as well, separating each section from this main lobby here. And this hallway here just so happens to be the main one that connects the lobby to the back room, which is where all the operations and checkups would take place. And since there wasn't a whole lot of room in the medical area, you'll notice a lot of the supplies and whatnot has kind of started to pour out here and just kind of make this area very cluttered. Now, before we check out the medical room, we'll go ahead and take a look at the doctor's main office. And on the way there, we'll have to pass behind the front desk. But over to the back side here, you'll see there's a cool little magazine rack, and you can imagine that maybe the pharmacist hands these things out to anyone who's possibly aspiring to take medical practices into their own hands. But overall, I thought it was just a cool idea that, in the end, adds some extra purpose for the build. But moving into the doctor's office, you can see this is a nice quiet area for him to get some work done. There's even a secondary room farther in the back that not only adds some extra storage for maybe some of the doctor's more personal items, but it's also a bit more separated from some of the noises that I'm sure you would hear in a clinic. And last but not least, we have the medical room. And let me just start off by saying, this doctor here is not the best. I mean, just look at this. Both of his patients are dead. There's a head sitting on the counter there. You know, I think this might have been why there was that gravesite out in the front. But yeah, overall, in this room, I tried to give the doctor a decent amount of space to operate and do all sorts of doctor things. And you'll see there's lots of medicines here and there and other sorts of medical supplies like oxygen tanks or IV stands, and even some bones lying around in some odd places. So I don't know, guys, maybe this doctor here isn't so much of a doctor after all. I mean, just think of all the possibilities. He could be a cannibal who just cuts up all his patients and eats them. I'm sure it might make you wonder why none of the other settlers have gotten suspicious to the fact that no one's come out of here alive in a while. But aside from that, I've also tried to make this room look quite dirty. I mean, it is the wasteland after all, so even something like a doctor's office or a hospital wouldn't really be the most sanitary place. But there's also some other stuff, like a little table by the bed for him to examine his patients, and there's even a desk off to the left-hand side where maybe he stores some more medical supplies, or even just sits down to write some medical notes and whatnot. But yeah, once again, this whole room is very cluttered, and some people may even say too cluttered, but I think in the end it just really adds to the amount of detail and just shows that if you're gonna get fixed up in the wasteland, it is definitely not gonna be the most pleasant experience. But anyways, guys, that'll do it for today. If you have any suggestions for changes we could make, feel free to let me know any of those. But once again, guys, thanks for watching. Like I said, hopefully you enjoyed the build, and as always, I will see you in the next one.